Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be talking about three main components of a pistol squat and why you probably can't yet do one. The first thing to note is that the pistol squat involves ankle mobility, which a lot of us don't have. So the first thing to test is, do you have it? A simple test for this is just to put both feet together, and are you able to squat all the way down and come all the way back up? Now, if you can't squat all the way down and come all the way back up, don't worry about the back rounding for now, but if you can't do that, then pistol squats are likely to be limited by your ankle mobility before they're limited by anything else. So if you could do that, well done you. You can skip forward for the next few minutes. If you can't do that, I'm now going to show you a couple of mobility drills which are going to help loosen off the muscles around the back of the ankle and the calf. So the first one is very simple. It's just a calf raise, but the slight little tweak we're going to do for this variation is that we're going to pause in the top and the bottom position so that we can stretch our calves under the load of our own body weight. So all you need for this is a simple step. I'm using a deadlift block, but that's entirely up to you. So all you're going to do, I'm going to show you this with my back to you, is you're going to come up as high as you can, pushing through the big toe, so a full stretch on the calves, and then we can do this one leg at a time, or we can do it both legs at a time, is just let your heel sink as low down as it possibly can. I like to shift onto one leg here, so we can really appreciate the stretch. So hold this bottom position with 3, 2, 1, and then come as tall as you can on 2, so pushing through the big toe, making sure that we're not falling to the outside of our foot, and then sink down again, letting one foot bear our entire body weight, holding for 3, 2, 1, and then coming up nice and tall. Now, I would repeat this 3-second hold at the top, 3-second pause on a single leg in the bottom position for at least 5 or so goes. So you're embracing that stretch at the top and the bottom position. This is using the gastrocnemius, if we like to be a little bit geeky and understand the anatomy of the calf. So that is mobility in a straight leg position, which you might think, great, but one of my legs is going to be bent in the pistol squat. So what am I going to do about that? So this is where I like to use a drill called knee over toe rocks. So this is going to get used to the knee traveling in front of that toe. So you're going to need a little bit of weight for this. I'm just going to use whatever kettlebell that I've got available, but I'd probably say about a 10 kilo plate or a dumbbell is going to work nicely here. So what you're going to do is set up in a half kneeling position. In this position, you're going to make sure that your hips are pointing directly forward. What we want to avoid is this heel popping up off the floor. Again, a bit exaggerated, but you get the idea. And we want to keep the heel down, hips level, so we're not slightly turned out. And all we're doing is moving our knee as far forward. I'm just going to shuffle back so you can see. Moving our knee as far forward from our toe as our ankle mobility will let us. So each time we push forward, we're just staying there for a couple of seconds or two and then pulling back. Now, if you feel this at the front, then you might need a little bit of band and release work, but that is something that I will cover in another video if you feel like that is what you're feeling at the moment. So we're just going to push our knee over our ankle, hold in that end range, and then come back. Obviously doing both sides. So these are simple mobility checks or mobility warm-ups to warm our body up to the specific shape that we are going to need for the pistol squat. So 8 to 10 reps on either side, and depending on what your ankle mobility is like, you should be good to go. Again, we can use a little bit of load here and just gently encourage that knee over that ankle, pausing in that end range. Really making sure we're keeping the whole of our foot flat on the floor. We're not falling out either side. So there is our ankle mobility stuff done. Again, you can repeat these drills 2 to 3 times as you feel necessary. I'm going to remove the block out of the way before we move on to our next drill. So So we've covered the mobility of the ankle. Another thing that is often neglected when we talk about pistol squats is the strength of the hip flexor or the quad on the freestanding leg. So for example, we want to make sure that we've got the mobility to sit down in a deep squat, ideally with feet together, because there's no hiding place for our ankle mobility. If we can sit in a deep squat, but it's with our feet turned out, we're not going to be able to pistol squat when we require the feet turned forward. So if you're wondering why your back squat strength isn't transferring to the skill of a pistol, it's probably because you do your back squats with a slight angle with the feet. Again, nothing wrong with that, but there's no hiding place with a pistol that is going to require your foot to be pretty much straight forward. So what we're going to do now is simply see, do we have the balance and hip flexor strength to have the foot out in front of us? So we're going to go down on two legs, and all we're going to see is, can we bring our foot in front of us? Now at this point, my heel is resting on the floor, that's fine. Can I pick that heel up off the floor? If I end up falling over, then that's a sign that either my balance needs work or a sign that that hip flexor doesn't like it. So let's try that again. So I'm going to go down on two legs. I'm going to bring one leg in front. Now if I can do this, but I can't come up, that's probably a sign that it's not a mobility issue. It's not a stability or strength issue with this hip flexor or quad. It's a strength issue or a balance issue on the freestanding leg. So let's try that once more. So if we pass this, then are we able to shift our weight onto this side and keep that foot off the floor? So I would practice repetitions of these. I get used to going down on two, see if we can transfer one way, see if we can transfer the other way, and then just come up on two. So we're building the specific shape that we're requiring with this pistol. We are also getting used to the skill of balancing and gripping the ground with our foot when we haven't got any shoes on. You'll probably find, if you're close to performing this movement, that a weightlifting heel might be the difference maker that you need. So we've covered the mobility, we've covered the hip flexor or the quad strength on the other leg. Now the final piece of the puzzle is the strength, or indeed the strength and the balance aspect. Now what you can do for this, I don't have one handy, but is if you've got a squat rack or even a door frame, then what I would recommend you do is you use the assistance provided by holding on to the door or holding on to for example, a gymnastics ring or something where you can deload your body weight. Now the key to this, and the place where I see a lot of people go wrong when they do this, is that they give themselves too much assistance, or they default to being in a position that you're not going to get into when you pistol. So if I could demonstrate real quickly what I'm on about. So if we move this out of the way. Now, if I come over here, now let's, for example, assume that this weighs enough for me to actually get any leverage against. Now, when it comes to you doing your pistol, you're going to make sure that you only use the door frame when you absolutely need to. So for example, if I can get to here without using it, I'm not going to use it. So I'm going to keep my hands free, my hips are going to move back. I'm only going to use it when I feel like I need to. So if I'm struggling here, I can hold on. I can keep my balance. Most people make the mistake of leaning too far back. So we're leaning our weight forward, we're using it to get out of the hardest position, and then we're letting our quad take over when we've got the strength to allow us to do so. So your progression on this is to limit the range of motion that you are using the assistance for over the sessions of, for example, weeks or months. So the idea here is that over time you use less and less assistance or less and less deloading of your own body weight with a door frame, or for example with a squat rack, or even pulling on a gymnastics ring. Do not make the mistake of leaning too far back, because then you'll end up in a position where, for example, you're leaning way far back here, but the reality is if it wasn't there, you wouldn't be able to have the balance to keep yourself upright. This is also a mistake I see when people do assisted squats, and it's also why I'm not a lover of the Smith machine, because you end up in a position, if I'm here, for example, my torso is so vertical, I can wiggle my toes, but if there's no support there, I'm going to fall over. The final thing I want to mention is an intermediate or a sort of halfway house between a pistol squat and, for example, a two-legged squat, and that is the skater squat. A skater squat, if you haven't seen it before, is very simply just taking the foot behind you, but rather so we don't need the hip flexor strength that a pistol requires, but it's still going to challenge our balance in a similar way. So a skater squat, or at least a version of a skater squat, would be this heel as close to your bum as possible. It's still going to require the ankle mobility on the working leg. A skater squat, I'm just going to dip my weight slightly backwards, let that knee drive over the toe, and then come up. Now, if, for example, you struggle with skater squats, let's say you haven't yet got the mobility to come with your ankle behind you, if that's difficult, I can keep this foot on the floor. So you see how this left leg is just providing a little bit of assistance. It's not really contributing to the strength of the movement, but it is contributing a little bit to the balance. Now, as I get stronger or more skilled, I can go from my foot flat on the floor to just having my toe on the floor. So here I can barely push through my big toe, but it's still contributing to the movement slightly. Again, as I get stronger, the foot comes off in its entirety. I barely touch down, and then I come up. So the skater squat doesn't require the hip flexor strength on the opposite leg that the pistol squat has, but it is a more specific shape to the pistol squat. It's going to develop strength and balance and coordination in that single leg stance. So a skater squat is a nice intermediate goal between, for example, the feet together squat, the skater squat, and obviously the pistol on the other end. So just to summarize, 3 things we need for a pistol squat. We need the mobility of the ankles to keep the feet flat and straight ahead, especially, for example, in our prerequisite, which is the feet together squat. We need the strength of the hip flexor on the free leg so that we actually feel like we can have the foot in front of us. Obviously, we need the balance, the ability to find the middle of the foot and stay there. And let's not forget that the pistol squat in itself is a skill. If you do your back squats with your feet turned out, again, nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking for transfer from your back squats to your pistol squats, that is not going to happen unless you can start to bring your feet closer together, which is both a reflection of your ankle mobility and your hip structure, but that's a video for a different day. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please like the video and share it so that other people can find the channel, and subscribe whilst you're there. Thank you very much for tuning in. Catch you again in the next video.